and welcome to Coffee Break Blogging, where you'll learn to grow and monetize your blog in short, tactical installments you can use right away. Now here's the next episode in our series. Welcome back to another installment of Coffee Break Blogging, where this isn't just another podcast, it's a full course on building an online business based around blogging from scratch. My name again is David Risley, and if you want to catch up with us from the beginning, go to coffeebreakblogging.com to view the full show archives. Okay, so let's get into our topic for today. What I want to talk with you about today is actually the start of a multi-part series that we're going to run for the next few installments of Coffee Break Blogging. And we're going to talk specifically about pricing, how to price your products. This is often a very confusing topic for people, and me too at many times. I mean, there's not an entrepreneur out there who hasn't second-guessed themselves on what their pricing should be. So if that's the way you feel, it's totally normal, totally fine. So what we're going to be talking about here over the next few episodes is just some of what goes into deciding what price to have for the various products that you are selling. Okay, so are you worried about pricing your product too high? Are you thinking maybe it would be better to aim low and hopefully make up for it in volume? Or are you one of those people who just basically give everything away for free? And then a lot of times there's psychological reasons behind that. Sometimes there are legitimate marketing reasons to give things away for free. In many cases, like lead magnets and blog posts and stuff. But sometimes I find that bloggers are just giving things away for free because they're actually outright afraid to ask for money. Okay, so that's some of the things that I want to begin talking about on this episode and the next few episodes. I want to talk about things like our fear of charging higher prices. I want to talk about why the size of your product doesn't necessarily have to be humongous. I want to talk a little bit about what happens after they buy based on what they pay, because that's definitely something you need to keep in mind, especially with instructional products. I want to talk a little bit about the balance of exchange and how important that is. I want to talk a little bit about why aiming low on your prices isn't always a good idea, but there is a specific right place where low prices make sense. We're going to talk about how to test out a product idea that you want to charge money for and see if it has any legs. We're going to talk a little bit about those internet marketing style prices that end in 7 and whether there's really anything to it. We're going to talk about how price affects the perceived value of your product. We're going to talk about how to ask people what they'd pay, but without actually just straight up asking them, how much are you willing to pay? That would be a lame question. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how your pricing is affected by your competition. Okay. Now, not all of that are we going to be talking about today, but let's go ahead and get started on this topic and talk about a few of them. The first thing I want to talk to you about is this idea of low prices. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to marketing and trying to get sales, it just so happens that low prices is pretty much low-hanging fruit. And so for that reason, because it's so easy and so brain-dead obvious, you see a lot of people who are just aiming for that as their primary sales vehicle. So they just try to undercut their competition on price, or they're constantly relying on sales discounts and coupon codes and all that kind of stuff. The problem is that when everybody is competing on price, we end up in a big race to the bottom. You end up turning yourself into a commodity where there's not a lot of difference between you and the next person over, because you guys are basically just competing on price. And we don't want to be in markets like that. We don't want to be in a business where we're competing on price, because it's not a good place to be. In this world of digital marketing, though, low prices are all too often based not on the competition, but on an actual fear on the part of the product creator. It could be a fear that their product might not sell. It could be, a fear of being perceived as salesy. And so you just kind of like try to placate everybody by giving it away for really low prices, or free, which could be even worse in some cases. We've got that fear that nobody's going to buy it, and so you try to offset that fear by aiming really low ball on your price. We've got that just straight up fear of failure. Nobody likes to put work into something and then feel like it just failed. Nobody likes that feeling. And there's also that confidence issue on with us as product creators, that sometimes we might not be able to actually fulfill on the promises that we've made. And so in order to try to offset that and not have them expect too much from us, we go and lowball the price. But all of this basically boils down to one thing: confidence. Your own personal certainty that what you're making is truly worth it for your customer. Now, in most cases, I think all those fears would go out the window if you were truly confident in what you were offering. If you knew it was an awesome product, if you knew it would help them, and you had total confidence in your ability to deliver that outcome. If you knew all that, you wouldn't be screwing around with the price because you know it would be worth it. Okay? So one of the big things that you need to do is make a product that makes you excited. Make a product, make an offer to your customers that you are truly excited about, that you are excited for your customer to get into that product. You need to be confident of your product's ability to deliver the outcome that you've promised. Now, if you are not confident of that, then you might need to go not necessarily back to the drawing board, but in some cases, maybe that's necessary. But maybe you need to go back and revisit this product that you're making or you've already made and make it better so that you truly feel as if it is a service to your customer, to where they would be missing out if they don't buy it. That's the way you want to feel about it. When you put an offer out there to your audience, you want to truly feel as if it will rock their world and that it's truly going to do them good. If you really feel like, honestly, deep down, that your product is truly going to help them, you're not going to be quite as worried about being quote unquote salesy. Okay. That whole idea of being salesy is an irrational fear that many of us have because of confidence issues. Okay. So the way to get that out of the way is to have a product that is so good that you feel like you would be letting them down if you don't do your best at getting them into it. Okay. Now, along that line, because we've been talking about the outcome and the product's ability to deliver the outcome, I want to talk about that for a minute here, because this goes right to the heart of another thing that people very often do to justify their prices, and that is to make the product big, like super huge. Okay. And so you might actually need to go back and revisit it from that perspective and realize that your product might be able to go on a diet. You might be able to really hone down that product, make it smaller, and actually make it more valuable while doing it. Because here's the thing, nobody is going out there and shopping around for information products thinking that, man, I really want more information right now. I really want more modules. I want more videos. Those thoughts have never occurred to anybody before. And so you trying to make your product, quote unquote, more valuable by simply adding more crap to it, it's not necessarily the way to go. There's this old saying, well, it's not really old. Some people still do this, but it was called the thud factor, especially in old direct response type advertising where the course was shipped to you on a big pack of DVDs or CDs or something like that. And it was this idea that when they got the box in the mail and they put it on the floor on the counter, you wanted it to go thud. And it was that idea that there was a lot of weight to it because it was big, like you were getting a lot for your money, big piles of stuff. And you'd call that the thud factor. And when it comes to digital training, that thud factor is often done by way of just simply loading it up, like having tons and tons of videos in there. And you'll have people bragging about how many hours of video footage is inside that product. You know, it's a stupid way to try to sell a product because people don't care how many hours of stuff is in there. They just don't. They actually want less. They want less, okay? If you can get them to that desired outcome in 1 hour instead of it taking 5 or 10 hours, then do it in 1 hour, okay? It doesn't have to be huge. The big thing that you need to take into mind, and this has everything to do with your pricing, is that it's a matter of how effectively you deliver the outcome. If you deliver it effectively, if you remove those hassles, you remove those barriers, and they get the outcome that they wanted and they got it effectively and in a short amount of time, your value of your product went up Okay, that's how you come up with the price of your product, not based on how big it is, but based on how effectively it actually gets the person from point A to point B. Okay, now how effectively it does that has everything to do with how confident you're going to be in the offer, and that's going to, of course, affect your price. Okay. Now, here's another foundational thing I want to discuss about the price, and then with that, we'll end off for today, and we'll pick up the topic again on the next episode. And that is this idea of how what you charge for your product is going to affect what happens after the sale has been made. And it has a lot to do with it. It has a lot to do with it. The reason why is because all of us, basically from childhood, have a sense of exchange practically built right into us. We kind of know when we've been gypped. We kind of know when we're getting an even deal, and we kind of know when things are stacked one way or the other. And that natural sense of exchange is inside of all of us. And if people feel like they're on the beneficial side of that sense of exchange, it's going to affect what can happen afterward. Okay. And so for this reason, if you give away the farm for a really low price point, certain bad things can happen. You might make more sales, but it might not be good sales. You might not get good customers. And it has a lot to do with that sense of fair exchange. If your customer feels like they got gypped because you overcharged and you didn't deliver, then they're going to feel like you did wrong by them. And they're going to ask for refunds. They're going to go out on the internet and say lots of bad things about you. Bad things are going to happen. Now, if you have a sense of even exchange where they feel as if they paid a certain amount of money and they got their money's worth from it. It wasn't like stellar, but they didn't feel screwed either. It was just like an even exchange. Well, both sides are going to be satisfied there. Okay. Now, I want to actually back up one level. And that is this sense of where people underpay for something that is much more valuable than that. I already mentioned that the customer go the other direction where people overpay for something and you underdelivered. What's going to happen is that they're going to feel like they got cheated. They're never going to want to deal with you again. Bad things are going to happen. The problem on your side, because you are another part of this transaction here, you as a product creator are going to feel one of a few different things. One is you could feel totally indifferent. You really don't care about delivering the outcome to them because they paid so little money for it. You could feel a sense of guilt. And that guilt can actually lead to resentment of your own customer. I've talked to some marketers behind the scenes. It doesn't happen super often, but I've been doing this a long time and I've talked with all kinds of people. And I've heard some of them kind of say some not so nice things about their own customers. Like they really don't respect their own customers. And I think a big part of that might come down to the way they charge for their products. If you feel as if you're under delivering to them, then what's going to happen is you need to make that transaction okay to you by denigrating the customer, because we want to feel okay about what we're doing. And if we are cheating our customer, we need to in order for us to feel okay about that, really the only way to do that is somehow make less of our own customers so that we feel better about having basically gypped them. And so when you have marketers who are kind of just saying not so nice things about their customers, oh, they're stupid or whatever, you've got a business owner who's doing some shady crap. It's just not good times going on over there. Okay. Now let's go to the other side of the equation where they paid a price which was too low considering what they actually received. In other words, they paid X amount of money and you gave them like so much value for that but it offsets this exchange equation. Well, on your side of it, it could lead to some issues. It could lead to where you begin to resent your customer, but for this time, for a different reason. You almost feel like they're taking advantage of you, but to a degree that you're not happy with. And you, again, are not going to deliver to your fullest to those people. Now, on the customer side, it can actually create a sense of guilt on the other side of the equation because your customer has that natural sense of fair exchange as well. And just what I said about how if you were if the situation were reversed, could end up in a position where you resent your customer. Well, it can happen the other way around, where your customer actually resents you too, and they're saying bad things about you, even though you gave them a fantastic deal. And this can happen because they feel like they took advantage of you. Okay, it's been said many times. It's definitely true that many times when you charge low amounts of money for stuff, you're going to have higher maintenance customers. You're going to have more complaints, more chargebacks, more trouble. And it's because you're going to attract people who are more often going to go out and say bad things about you and say you didn't deliver to them and all that, even though they paid chump change to you. It's because that sense of exchange has been offset too far in the other direction. Okay. So what you want as your ideal is that you take the benefit and the outcome that they're going to be receiving from your product and you charge according to that. Okay. And then on top of that, what you want ideally is that your customer is getting the slight upper hand in terms of the exchange equation. You want them to pay a fair price for it, but you want them to feel like they're getting more than that in value, but not to such a degree that they feel like they just, if they feel like they took advantage of you a little bit, that's okay. But if it's like a massive thing where you just gave them something like a $2,000 course and they just bought it for 10, it's not going to work out that well. Some, bad things might happen. They're going to be very high maintenance. They're probably not even going to partake. You're not going to get any results, any good testimonials, because nobody ever even did the damn thing. They weren't committed to the training because they paid so little for it. Okay. So hopefully that wasn't too all over the board, and you kind of get how what you charge for your product has a lot to do with what's going to happen after that. Your price needs to be fair for the outcome that you're giving them with your product. Your price needs to be inside of your happy zone, meaning that you need to be satisfied with the amount enough that you are going to be motivated to ensure that your customer is really taken care of. If your customer asks you questions or asks you to do something and you resent them for it, or you're like, oh, stop bothering me, that's a damn good indicator that you're not charging enough for your product. Okay. Now, on the flip side of that, your price needs to be in your prospect's happy zone as well. They want to feel as if you over-delivered and fulfilled all of your promises, but the price paid needs to be enough so that the customer is going to value it and is going to be invested in the outcome of your product. Okay. So with all that being said, you got to take all this stuff into account when you're pricing it. Okay. It's not just a matter of what you can get away with and how many sales you can get. It's also about what happens afterward. If you charge more for something, you're going to get probably less customers. But in many cases, the customers are going to be much higher quality. They're going to be a lot less maintenance for you, and a lot of good things happen. And it's not only that, it's just easier to deal with. It's an easier business to run when you have less customers. Okay? So it is definitely a balancing act. And on that note, we're going to leave it at that. And what we have plenty to talk about in future episodes here at Coffee Break Blogging, where we're going to go into the next part of this Naming Your Price series in the next episode. I want to again remind you here that you can share this podcast with a friend out on social. You could do that on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, or wherever you're hanging out, and just let people know what's going on. Maybe go over there and let them know to give a listen to Coffee Break Blogging if they're confused about what to charge for their products, because that's what we're going to be talking about for the next few episodes of Coffee Break, okay? And when you do that, send them over to coffeebreakblogging.com, and you can use the hashtag CBB for Coffee Break Blogging so that I can see it and thank you publicly. Also, you can leave a review over on iTunes at blogmarketingacademy.com/iTunes. Okay, I will see you on the next episode of Coffee Break, where we're going to continue talking about naming your price. Thanks for listening to this episode of Coffee Break Blogging. If you like what you heard here today, we have something awesome we'd love to send you. It's called the Blog Conversion Guide, and it has 9 tweaks you can make to your blog in order to increase your conversion rate to get more opt-ins and sales. As one of our listeners, we'd love to give you access to this guide absolutely free. You can get your copy right now by going to coffeebreakblogging.com. Again, go to coffeebreakblogging.com to get your copy, and we'll see you next time.